Bert, where are you right now?
The suburbs of Chicago.
Okay, now have you been to this is Bears camp?
Yeah, so this is my fourth. Actually, I'm starting with the four NFC North teams. So I went Lions, Vikings, Packers, and now Bears today.
Okay, so what was the situation in Detroit like with the new coaching?
Yeah, I mean, one thing you notice when you're there, Fred, is like how talented they are. And I think because sometimes the way we've looked at that team, the job that Dan Campbell's done and the job Ben Johnson done, it's sort of taken all the oxygen out of the room. But they have like so many of their best players are in year three, year four, year five, and you go down the list, Panay Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson coming back off the injury, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, like so many of their guys like are already really good and should keep getting better. So, I think that's part of it is they hope that the roster is so good that that's going to mitigate the coaching loss. I think they're going to feel it more on offense than defense, though. The more people you talk to, the more you hear what Ben Johnson did was very specific to Ben. Like it, I mean, like he's not from one of these big families of offensive coaches where it's like this established system. Like what he did and what he's done over the last couple of years was really kind of specific to him. And now they're bringing in John Morton, who was with Ben for a single year 3 years ago, and he's gonna, I think, change some things, keep some other things. So it'll just be interesting with a little bit more on Jared Goff and the players to get it done, I think.
Okay, out of all the new coaches, Ben Johnson is the one that is being labeled as, the golden boy. I mean, people are talking about they did last year too, but people are talking about Chicago being like a playoff team that could that could come out of that very tough division.
Yeah.
Uh, do you is that a guarantee? I mean, I've because just the only reason I say that I don't know anything about Ben Johnson is that I've seen tons and tons of offensive wizards, get into a head coaching job and fail.
Yeah, he's interesting because that's always been the question with him. You know what I mean? It's like, you can call an offense, you can design an offense, you can coach a quarterback, but does he have the leadership piece of it? And I've said this to you a million times, Fred, like I think like what Sean McVay, for example, like what he does best, like if you were ranking those things, I think, his offensive acumen would be down the list. Like I think he's a better leader, he's a better culture builder than he is, an offensive coach. He's a really good offensive coach, but that's just a piece of the whole package. And I think the Bears, based on where things were at the end of last year, based on the way things came undone last year, do need somebody to come in and like change the atmosphere of that place. So, like that's always been the question with him is can he command a room? And the way he won over players in Detroit, was more or less by giving them the answers to the test.
Hmm.
It's here, if you do things this way, you're gonna have 1,000 yards receiving. You're gonna have 1,200 yards rushing. You're gonna have a quarterback rating over 100. You're gonna make the Pro Bowl as a tackle. I'm gonna give you the answers to the test. And so I think that's a huge key for him, here in Chicago is how quickly can he give those guys the answers to the test, right? Like how quickly can he get those guys results?
And
Because
that
it is
scares
a
me.
place that was a mess at the end of the year.
But that scares me because who did he have ahead of him?
And that's
Uh,
part of it. Yeah, like two
is you had
parts.
the huge alpha, like
Right.
you had the ex player, the alpha, so you can sit and work with the offense
I
and
mean,
and get their respect. But in the meantime, the guy at the beginning at the head of the room is the big alpha guy.
well, if you guys remember when I remember telling you guys about Mike McDaniel when he took the Miami job, right? And like Mike McDaniel when he was in San Francisco, would more or less disappear on Monday, right? Like they would get through meetings with players, and then like Monday afternoon, he would more or less disappear, and he would come back Wednesday morning with like the run game for that week, right? And there were a lot of questions over whether or not Mike could lead an entire team because that was the way he did his job, right? Like his job was, I'm going to go in the lab, I'm going to get the answers to the test, I'm going to give the players the answers to the test, and maybe they won't respond to it right away, but once they see that it works, then they're going to follow me. And again, that's like almost exactly what Ben was in Detroit. Like Ben was one of these guys. All right, on Monday, I'm done with my meetings, wrapping up the game on Sunday, and I'm going to go into the hole and I'm going to get the game plan right. And I'm going to kind of work on my own. And then when the players come back on Wednesday, here it is. That was the way that he had worked. So I do think there's some similarities. They're not the same guy, but there are some similarities to how Mike McDaniel coaches with what the Bears players are going to see with Ben Johnson.
And but the thing is, Mike McDaniel is cool. Like I know, and there's the verdict's out on whether
But
or
he's very different, though, right? Like
yeah.
I
Well, but
agree
that's
with
the
that.
thing is that if I was like Mike we don't know yet if he's a good coach or not, right? Like
Right.
yet to be decided. But the thing that I think Mike McDaniel has going for him that a Ben Johnson might is just social skills. You don't
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it just like he's like a funny, cool guy. That might not work, but at least he's not Adam Gase, right? Like he's
yeah.
not one of these whiz kids. Like at least Mike McDaniel, I know, is best friends with Dan Soder and like can talk to people. I don't know if that's Ben Johnson's that guy.
Right. And like, I think the real test comes for like, because it's easy, right? This time of year. Like, I'll go there this morning and everything will be great, right? Like, because they haven't played a game yet. Like, the real test with all of these guys is what happens when they lose a couple of games in a row? What happens when three guys get hurt in the same game and now the next week is a fire drill and you got to keep everybody on board when the season looks like it could be on the line? What happens when a player gets arrested? How do you handle that sort of stuff? So I think like that was something that Mike McDaniel, that was the biggest question with Mike McDaniel. I think people knew like he had this quirky, different personality. How is that going to present in front of the room was a big question. And we all know now, right? Like it's easy to say it now, but he presents much differently than a Mike Vrabel or a Dan Campbell or a guy that you would say is more of like a prototypical football coach, right? And Mike found his voice by being himself because I think there were a lot of people questioning whether or not he could do that, and he did, right? So I think that that's a big question for Ben, and was a big question for Ben the last couple of years was how he presents in front of the room. There were even some people that thought, and this was interesting, like when he pulled his name out of the Carolina search a couple of years ago, when he pulled his name out of all the searches last year, and probably could have gotten a job there were a lot of people that asked the question, does he even really want to be a head coach, right? Does he have like this self-awareness that he is like at his best as an offensive coordinator? It's a question a lot of people have asked, and I'll be interested to see what it looks like when I'm out there today.
Yeah, I think there's probably so many questions in terms of like how they're going to relate to him, but also there's questions with the quarterback there. There were things earlier this week about what his goals are and how that's going to translate into actual wins. And I don't know if you saw any of that, Bert, but there seems to be some lingering. Let's just say emphasis on personal goals rather than professional or team ones.
With Ben, you're saying?
No, with the quarterback.
Oh, with the quarterback. Oh, the quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been the question with Caleb, like really going back to like when he was like, I think a sophomore at USC, right? Like, because he was like the first NIL kid because like if you remember, like he was part of that first class of high school kids coming into college when NIL was there in 2021. And so he's almost like I think seen as like the first real millionaire celebrity college athlete, right? Because he wound up at USC and there were the stories about having the penthouse in Los Angeles and there's all the different stuff about the painted fingernails and like just the different type of personality he is. And it's interesting because like I talked about Ben not being like the figure you'd cut in a head coach. It's sort of the same thing with Caleb Williams. Like he's a very different guy. And even some of the stuff that he said, like I don't know if you guys saw the stuff that was in Seth Wickersham's book that's coming out in September about where Caleb and his dad were trying to see if they could steer themselves to Minnesota. like that was real. Like he took he met with two teams before the draft. It was the Bears and the Vikings, and he refused meetings with everybody else. And so this is a kid who's approached his career a lot differently, and is kind of he's a different type of figure than a quarterback usually is. So that relationship's obviously going to be really, really important, really, really important.
Yeah,
For the
and for him to have goals like, and he stated them like in order. I want to be the first 4,000-yard passer. I want to have a 70% completion percentage, and
Yeah.
also I want to put points on the board. And and
No, but
win
some of
games.
that's from Ben though. Like I think Ben was the one who set the 70% thing,
Okay.
and the 4,000. Ben actually said.
Oh well, look. If that's his means to motivate him, great. I just wonder if Caleb is
Yeah,
thinking
no,
like,
I know what you're
great.
saying. I know what you're saying. The 4,000 yards thing is kind of almost a joke now. Did you guys know that the Bears have never had a
Yeah.
4,000?
Yes.
passer?
Do you
We
know?
also know. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, do you know who their passing leader is for a single season?
Oh, that's a good question. Is it? It's not Rex Grossman, right?
Nope.
No.
I'll give you a hint. I guess Jim Harbaugh was wrong.
It's not Mike Tomczak, is it?
Nope.
Um,
Boy, you do this for a living, don't you?
Former Lion.
Yeah, he played for
Eric
the
Kramer.
Lions.
Yes.
Eric Kramer. Good
Yes.
there you
job.
go.
Yes.
All right.
Good job.
I wouldn't have guessed that without the hint, though. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, not a lot of people would have gone. Oh boy, yeah, certainly Eric Kramer if it's the Lions in Chicago. So that you proved your worth, sir. Good job.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
job. Yes, indeed.
How about that division overall, though?
Oh, it's stacked. Yeah. I mean, I spent some time with the Vikings on Wednesday, and if the quarterback can play, that Vikings team is loaded. Like every single position, they don't have a hole, And you look at where they are offensively with Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison's probably going to be suspended for 5 or 6 or 7 games, but he'll be there eventually. I mean, the Vikings are really good. The Lions are really good. The Packers, I think the Packers, the question isn't whether they're going to be good. It's can they go from 11 wins to 13 wins? That's what you're dealing with in that division. And so that's going to make it even tougher on Chicago, But Chicago, you look at what they did on the offensive line and going and getting Joe Tooney and Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson. And it's sort of the model that Ben had in Detroit, where they really went overboard in building the offensive line. And as you guys know, like the Lions have really ridden that offensive line. That's that's another big question for the Lions is losing Frank Ragnow. What's going to happen with the line because it was such an overwhelming strength for them. But yeah, that might be, I'd say right there with the AFC West, that might be the most balanced division in football.
All right, this is good stuff. And who do you like the most out of there? Just quickly.
I like the Lions to win the division again.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.